You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Mike podcast. And today I'm joined by two lovely guests, Anne and Bella. Could you just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? We'll start with Anne and then Bella.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Nyachomba from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a head of customer in a company called Nexleaf Analytics. It's a non-profit. My role basically entails supporting governments across Africa and Asia to get the best out of our IoT technology.
And my name is Bella. I am the global head of customer experience at ENGIE Energy Access, where we provide affordable, reliable, life-changing solutions to our customers in 9 African markets.
Right. And this is a question I ask all my guests. That is how they ended up in this space of customer experience. So I don't know if this is something you had all been doing for quite a while, or you found yourselves in this area accidentally or intentionally. I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you ended up in this space. Again, we'll start with Anne and then Bella.
Okay. So I always say that customer experience chose me. So starting my career almost 2 decades ago, I'd always had customer-facing roles. And until around 2014, when the bank I was working for was starting a customer experience department. And so when they advertised for the job, it looked interesting, something to do with customers. It was still a very new concept, so not very well understood. And so I took my shot and I got the opportunity. And I guess from that, I ended up transitioning into other roles like business process engineering. I got an opportunity to start customer experience departments in other organizations. And eventually I decided to just sort of give myself the opportunity to also get technical knowledge. And so I advanced with a master's in customer experience from IE Business School in Spain. And from then, I've just been doing customer experience in technology companies.
Bella?
Yes, I came upon customer experience about 5 years ago. So being an account manager and managing different portfolios across different verticals, from banking to branding to investment, I then transitioned into a role that enabled me to understand the voice of customer technology and then to pursue a certification in Net Promoter Score from Richard Owen. That is when I decided that now I would pursue customer experience and specialize in the field since then.
All right. Today we are having a very, very important discussion, one that excites me. And usually when I have guests on, the focus tends to be on the customer. However, today I would like to talk about the employee that plays a very important role in delivering a very good customer experience. So I wanted to hear from the two of you on what your thoughts are about employee experience. What is your understanding of that? Because it's something that will give you different answers depending on who you ask. But for yourselves, what is employee experience? And again, we'll just start with Anna and then Bella.
So for me, I would say employee experience is all about the experiences that employees have from the point where they start interacting with the organization. And that would be way before the interview process, the application, up to the time whether they exit, whether retirement or resignation. So the in-between that becomes a big part of how they experience the organization is what I would consider as an employee experience.
Yes, Bella?
Yes, and I agree completely with what Anne's definition is. Daudi, you said depending on who you ask and at what point they are in the relationship that they've had previously with other employers and they're currently having, then the definition might change. However, how I'd like to define employee experience is all of the emotional and rational experiences that a potential employee to an organization goes through their company up to and until when they exit the organization. And isn't it interesting that most of us will have a memorable experience, whether good or not so good, about a previous employer, things that we would want to replicate where we work right now, and maybe things that we want to move very far away from in terms of how our teams experience us and how we interact with other teams.
Yes, I like what you said there, Bella, in terms of what employee experience is. And I'm just curious, for the layperson out there who's hearing this for the first time, maybe, what is the relationship between this so-called employee experience and customer experience? Because we've heard a lot about customer experience, but is it related in any way to employee experience? Are the two dependent on each other? How exactly does that work? And we can start with Anna, then Bella once again.
All right. So for purposes of advancing this conversation, so I'll define customer experience, and I'll define it as it's very similar to employee experience, or rather, just that in this context, it's the customer who is receiving it. So from the point when they start imagining they would need the service, to how they interact while they are searching for the information, all the way to whether they make a purchasing decision, or after sales, that is post the buying. So the sum total of those experiences, how are they experiencing your brand, and how are they how does the brand make them feel? So for me, that's what I would imagine and define customer experience. So yes, they are very similar. Because they are, first of all, emotions are involved. Bella's definition for employee experience indicated about emotions, and emotions is a very big part of customer experience. And so technically, even when it comes to like designing, when you think it's the sum total of experiences for both either employee or customer from the beginning to the end, whatever the end may be, whether the customer proceeds to buying or not. And the same case for the employee.
Right. Yes, Bella.
Yeah, so there are a lot of similarities and there are also a bit of differences in terms of the employee experience and the customer experience. I like to define the employee as an internal customer. So they are an internal customer to the organization. And how you treat or make your internal customer feel about your brand will translate to how they interact with our brand. So if the internal customer is well trained, if the internal customer is empowered, knowledgeable, confident, and they have a mastery over their skill, they will translate the same to the customer. They will make the customer confident in your brand. They will share product knowledge with your customer. They will even go as far as anticipating what the external customers' needs are and how to meet those needs. Because now they connect with the brand internally, they understand what their needs are, then they will translate those to the external customer. So in some ways, how your external customer behaves towards your brand can be the mirror image of what your employees are experiencing in terms of your brand.
Right, and there are quite a number of companies that we've heard of that have wonderful employee experience. The one that comes to mind, I think, is Google. It's one of those companies that's praised for having an environment where its employees thrive, and that helps them develop and publish the best products out there. But I'm just curious, from your experience, what it takes to create this employee experience that helps the staff thrive and serve customers better. And is that a role of the customer experience manager or human resource? Because this seems like one of those areas where they work together or one of them has to take over it. I'm not sure how that works, and what role does the customer experience manager play? Do they do the voice of a customer, but this time the voice of the employee? Maybe you can just shed some more light on that. I'll start with you, Anne, and then Bella.
I can say over the years, we are getting to a point where the employee experience and the customer experience have to go hand in hand. Like employee experience is affecting how the customers will experience the brand. And so it's something that has to coexist and co-created together. And with that said, as you may know, that happy employees will ensure, happy employees will reflect that energy to how the customer is experiencing the brand. And I can give a small example. So the other day, I had an appointment somewhere in a spa. And it was meant to be 11 a.m. on a weekend, on a Sunday. And I was looking forward to it. So around 9:30, I got this phone call. And the company was, and they introduced themselves. It was actually the spa. And they just wanted to let me know that one of the tools that they were meant to use for my experience was not working. And imagine how impressed I was when they called me. First of all, they let me know almost an hour and a half before. So that means at least I'd not started my journey. Secondly, they were already telling me that they had called the alternative. Like when their tools were not working, they checked out on the other branches just to confirm, hey, do you have a slot that you can accommodate this customer at 11 a.m.? And so by the time the lady was finishing that part of the conversation, as much as my day had been inconvenienced because I'd planned for it, I was already feeling excited. And I remember just saying, oh, thank you for letting me know. And right after, they kept on informing me and letting me know that, hey, let's check in the afternoon. And even before the afternoon was there, they had already called to inform. And for sure, when I went to the facility, I could just feel the energy. And that tells me those are employees who are happy. So when employees are happy, they will translate that to customers. So I felt the engagement. By the time you're calling me and you've already started looking for alternatives, that tells you how highly energized they are about even just working for that organization. And so we are at that point that we cannot separate the two. When they are unhappy, that is where they will not engage the customers, they'll not give the feedback, and they will create a lot of inefficiencies. Because as opposed to looking for ways of serving customers, they'll be doing things for the sake of doing things and creating a lot of operational inefficiencies. And so I would say that we are getting to a point where we have to think about the two as being intertwined.
And I absolutely agree. And there can be no separation between how employees experience you as an organization and how it shows up out there for the customer. When we're looking at who then takes on the responsibility around employee experience, just like Anne has said, we have to coexist. It's a collaborative effort between HR and customer experience managers and experts out there. And also all functional heads of the business and how the leadership thrives by being empathetic leaders and being managers who are able to be vulnerable with their staff and how they're able to guide and coach their team members. It all shows up across the entire functions of the business. And when you bring in HR, or now they're being known as the head of people and culture, they're able to define exactly how the organization behaves and how the organization represents itself, both internally and externally. The CX manager comes in there in terms of defining the employee journey and ensuring that we can map a journey that speaks to an empowered and well-skilled and then that that team is also well managed, and the leaders within the organization are keen to all of the different changes that are happening and how to manage those teams. And so I would say it's a joint effort. What you will notice in most organizations is that the HR component or the HR leadership is now taking on the forefront, moving away from aspects of compliance or rewards and recognition or payroll exclusively as HR responsibilities, and moving more into defining the culture of the organization. So in so doing, they will map out an employee journey of what is the ideal employer value proposition. And usually the aspects of mapping out those journeys comes from the design thinking, the ensuring that some of the the skills that our customer experience managers have are embedded in the employee journey mapping. And so I insist it's a collaborative effort across the functions in the business.
So I like the concept of culture, and I mean the employees define the culture, and you can tell a good culture or a good customer-centric culture just by how the even the interview, like the whole employee experience journey is. For example, if you're having engagements with a potential employer, for example, you get onto that interview, they're either on their phone or they are not keeping their promises. That already tells you. And for sure, most of the brands that exhibit such signs along the employee journey, it's not surprising that there are aspects of the touch points that they've totally ignored that will also reflect into the customer experience journey. And so it has to be, you have to really review all the journeys, both employees and both customers.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. And for someone who's learning quite a bit from the two of you, I'm just curious as to how intricate these employee journeys are. For instance, if you have customers, you can have tiers of maybe high-profile customers or low-profile customers, but they're generally consuming a similar service or product. When it comes to employees, the needs and wants of your IT team will differ slightly from your sales team, your accounting team. So there are different needs and wants, and so those journeys tend to be different in terms of what they are looking for in an organization. So how detailed should the mapping of these employees be, or is it a blank canvas in terms of the cultural feel? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that some needs are common to all of us. From a human perspective, we all want to be appreciated for what we bring on the table. We all want to be recognized and rewarded. The nature of the recognition or the rewards scheme might be different for different individuals, but we all want a sense of belonging. We all want to feel included and to show up in our best selves at work. And so whichever function you are in the business, these needs need to be met. And studies have shown that employees who are satisfied with their jobs and get a sense of fulfillment from how they show up at work in their true strengths and their ability to continuously improve and hone in on their skills are employees that get retained within those organizations. It's more about, do I feel that I belong? Do I feel that I am appreciated for what I bring? Do I feel that I would love to wake up every morning jump started to show up at work? Do I feel that within my team, we are able to do good quality work and we are recognized and appreciated for it? Do I feel that this is an organization I could work in and grow in terms of my skill set and in terms of positions, for example, opportunities to And so all those aspects I feel are common across board, and ensuring that we have leaders who can truly have like a coaching and consultative mindset with their teams enables us to understand what personalized solutions we can give to employees within the organization, so that then we don't have a one size fits all. For example, for employee merchandise or uniforms, or things that we use to appreciate employees that are well branded, someone's thinking that doesn't do it for me. I would rather you just give me a shopping voucher. There are a couple of items I need at home, and since I work from home, I'd love to just shop for those things.
Yes, Anne, anything to add to that?
I totally agree with Bella, and I think the way most of the structure is, the organization structures are being done nowadays. They give the opportunity to customize, in that you have your HR partner for most organization, and you still have your manager. As much as the frameworks are the same, then it means that I can have a conversation based on where I want to go, in terms of where I want to go in terms of my career, what interests me, what I value, what I see as being valuable in being as an employee. And at the same time, Bella can have the same conversation. So I think giving opportunities for people to have these conversations then helps the organizations to be able to meet the employee at their point of need. And sometimes you see them having like personal development conversations, which are very important, and makes employees end up also, because this is meant to be a symbiotic relationship. So as employers, there is what value the employee is getting from you, and vice versa. And so such structures have enabled personalization, and so leading to potential happy employees.
Right. Well, one of the few things I've read about is being very keen on the onboarding process and making sure that you bring on employees who are a right fit for the culture, because one bad apple can just ruin everything for the rest of them. And so I'm just curious, in terms of the journey mapping, is it the case that you're not just looking out for the best interests of the potential employees, but also the best interests of the rest of the team?
So when you're mapping employee journeys and when you're mapping customer journeys, there will be some similarities in terms of the process. However, there will be differences when you're defining the persona, for example. If IT team, and we were to define the persona of our customer who is the user of our platform, there will be some similarities, maybe in the demographics, but in terms of behavior and lifestyle, there will be some differences. So process taken into account, the similarity here is we need to develop personas in both cases. Now, taking into account any research that has been done around our existing customers and any research that we have around our existing employees and those that have worked with us for some time, it will factor into the personas that we create. And then after that, we build out the stages of the journeys. Now, for example, in the awareness case of an employee, we are asking ourselves questions around what is the perception of our brand on LinkedIn, for example, and are we an employer that is attractive to potential employees? On the other hand, as a brand, we are asking ourselves, have we done marketing across the right channels? Are we interacting with prospective customers in the way that appeals to them perspective, or from a packaging of our products perspective? Awareness is the common stage here. However, the interaction with the brand is slightly different from an employee perspective or from a customer perspective. Moving into the next stage of the journey is the consideration. So the likelihood that you want to attract the best employees appeals also to the fact that these prospecting employees are looking at your brand and comparing to other brands as well. The customer, on the other hand, is experiencing your product from an advertising point of view, or maybe from a recommendation point of view. But the truth is that they are in the consideration stage and they are probably interacting with other brands as well, trying to make a decision. When you move into the next stage, which is the purchase decision for our customer, it is now that they've decided, these benefits and the features of your product or your services are worthwhile. Let me go into my wallet and make a payment. For the prospecting employee, they have looked at other organizations, an interviewing process, and they might have one or two offer letters on the table. So the moment that they put ink to that dotted line, they are making a decision to join your organization. And then both of them go through onboarding. And onboarding, as we know, it is the first few days, the first few weeks, or the first month that you experience a brand. A very defining moment. Some studies have shown that depending on how well you onboard a customer or a staff member, you can actually be able to predict how long you will have them as a retained employee or a retained customer. And then we move on to ongoing engagement, where we are ensuring that as an employee, you have the best experiences with your team, with your leaders, with any and all processes that are involved while you're still with an employer. For the customer, it's the same. While they're still making continued payments if it's a subscription model, or after a period of time, they've utilized the product and they will purchase another one, and or they will purchase an organization that matches with the employee being promoted or experiencing some form of job shadowing or job expansion. So they are increasing their territory at work. And then comes in the exit or the end of that journey, whether it's by choice or otherwise. So for the employee, it is that they have looked for other opportunities out there, and or they've been sought and they have decided once again to consider those organizations and move out. For the customer, it is that they've come to the end of their experience with your brand in terms of product or service. And sometimes that end of life for a customer means that they have possibly maximized all of the value they could get from your brand, and or they've had a very bad experience. And so they are voting with their feet. They are out. They are checking out. I say that with a bit of enthusiasm, which is the contrary of what our audience might want to hear. The thing, around that time, the exit of any of those two journeys, I feel like that's a moment of truth for most organizations, right? It's the one moment you might be able to get very raw feedback from your employees that are exiting the organization about what they really thought was their defining factor or their decision, stuck, and what they considered to be the most important thing for them when they were making that move. And for your customers, if it is from a point of frustration, they probably want nothing to do with you. And some customers will do it very quietly. They will not even give you feedback. Or they've given you feedback over a period of time and they feel that you've not actioned it. So then you're not listening to that feedback and I'm not important to you as a customer. I have options. Let me buy somewhere else. On the other hand, there's the experience that an employee will have when they move on, or a customer when they move on, and they will still be able to advocate for your brand, right? They will still be able to say something memorably good about your brand, and thereby, becoming ambassadors.
Right. Thank you so much, Bella. Any additions to that, Anne?
I think it's just echoing what Bella has said. And in summary, it's that both of the journeys are user-centric. It means you have to understand these people. People being, you classify them into personas, their behaviors and everything else. And hence, every other thing that you design needs to be being driven by their needs for you to keep them satisfied. Because at the end of the day, what you need is advocacy, whether it's for employee and whether it's for customer. At the point where they want to exit, you don't want them to exit at a point where they are not exiting out of bad experiences, but they're exiting and they can still be your advocates.
Right. And just as we wind down the interview, we've mentioned quite a bit about employee experience, customer experience. So for any listeners and viewers of this particular episode that are in a leadership position, what advice would you share with them regarding their employee experience in particular?
So I would say value feedback and give opportunities for feedback, because employees, for them to get that level of engagement, they need their voice heard. It's very important, and you'll see their trends around how to collect feedback for employees. There's Rate My Service, where different departments rate each other. And in the process, you're able to pick a lot of feedback. And there's another one called internal satisfaction, where they're also gauging on behalf of the customer what their experiences would be. Why this is a growing trend is because businesses have realized that if you give your employees opportunities, remember at the point you're serving that customer, you can tell their pain. Like you've seen the pain, you've heard of their pains, and high chances are that they already know the solution to that customer's pain. And so giving them the opportunity to voice out, and as well as give solutions will go a long way. And of course, when you're given feedback, there needs to be that loop where you can see the feedback being utilized. Employees will get more engaged. If I see my feedback has been implemented, then what will I do on a day-to-day basis? I'll be looking for opportunities of improvement. So I'll be checking out for my customers, I'll be checking out for their pain points, and every day reimagined what could be done differently, and take that back to the business so that there can be continuous improvement. Sometimes we go looking for answers outside, and majority of the time, the answers lay within our employees. They are experiencing these things on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, Bella?
Yes, I would say that leaders are also employees, and we've put them on a pedestal and expected some level of perfection from them, and then focused on their teams as being their employees, as the people that need to have the best experience within the organization. And again, this might not be popular, but I would say we need to map out what our leaders' experience should be as employees as well. And we need to see that their well-being, and that the fact that they are taken care of, and that they are recognized for their efforts, and that any form of coaching and continuous learning is enabled for both our leaders and our teams that are being led. And so when we look at employee experience, it will be the universe of any and all of the different structures that an organization might have, all the way from the C-suite, and looking into their welfare and what really matters to them, because they're driving the direction of the business, going on into middle management, the people that are really hands-on and getting the work done. I think if we're able to map out, depending on all of the other factors that an organization may have, whether your employees are working from office or they're working from home, or it's a hybrid work environment, we would need to map out what that looks like, right? And to be able to give the best experiences, I would say always starts with the voice of the customer, voice of the employee in this case. Ask them what it is they want and how they would most feel appreciated and what enables them to show up as their best.
Right. Well, that brings us to the end of this very, very engaging and unique interview from my perspective. Thank you once again for taking the time to do this particular episode. It's been very insightful. Normally, I tend to discuss the point of view from the customer's side, but this time, listening to your in-depth analysis of what that looks like from the employee side and the implication it has in the overall service delivery is very, very helpful. And I think a lot of people have learned a lot from this particular episode. And hopefully we shall have more conversations like this in the future, because it certainly is an area that all of us need to take a keen look at. So thank you so much, and I wish you the very best.